Hey everyone, today I am giving away this free printable. So the front side looks like this. It says goals for 2024, so you can write out your faith goals. And then on the back is a color coding key, and I'll show you some examples for using this later on in this video. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. If you haven't seen part 1 yet of my faith planner setup, I'm going to leave the link to that video in the description down below. So go watch it, get caught up, and then come back to this video. We're going to pick up right where we left off, which is setting up the collections tab. The first insert that I want to add behind this collections tab is actually the free printable. I am going to fill this out right now to show you an example. You can of course fill this out any way you would like, but I am going to kind of break this up into the days, weeks, months, and quarters in terms of what the goal is. My first goal is every day that I'm going to follow the quiet time guide, pray through the strategic prayers, and incorporate the prayer requests into my prayers for that day. Every week, I want to write out a memory verse. I also want to read part of a book every week, keep my faith planner up to date, and do quarterly reviews. At the end of this video, I will explain the system that I'll be using in 2024 to make sure that I achieve those goals. On the back is a color coding key, so you can obviously use this however you want, but I'm going to be using this to color code the verses, or I can color code my notes on books that I'm reading. And this year, I've decided that I wanted a separate notebook to keep all of my notes on faith-based books, just to keep it organized. This is actually a new planner cover that I just added to the shop, but it can also come as this notebook. It just has a bunch of lined notes sheets in here. What I'm going to do is each day that I'm taking notes, I'll write down the title of the book, the author, and the date up here at the top. And then I'll write down the page number, and I'll just take notes as I'm reading or as I'm finding maybe quotes or different things that I want to remember for the future. I absolutely love taking notes on the books that I read. These will be stored together. Now I want to fill out the color coding key, and like I said, I'm going to use this to color code my notes and also color code my Bible study sheets. Wrapped up in everything, but now that I'm out, I got wind under my wings. I've broken up the color coding into these 5 categories. If you want more categories, just print out an additional sheet of this, or as many sheets as you want. Here I said verses and notes about hope and encouragement in this olive color, spiritual growth, trusting God, strength and courage, and God's love. My Bible study notes will be color coded, and also the notes that I take on the faith-based books that I'm going to be reading this year. I started filling out this page as an example. So some biblical affirmations are that God has a purpose for my life, and that's based on Jeremiah 29:11. Perfect love drives out my fear, 1 John 4:18. God will never leave me or forsake me, Deuteronomy 31:6. These are reminders of God's truth and a page that I can flip through during the times when I'm feeling stressed out or I need a reminder. After that is the book tracker, and I can of course add to this list as the year goes on and I come up with more ideas. These stars are for the rating after I read it, and I would just color it in using some highlighter or a pen and then check it off once I'm done reading it. And you could of course write the date that you read it if you want to do that as well. I will be adding to this list at the end of March, but currently on my faith-based books to read list are The Little Prayer Book and Powerful Prayers in the War Room, which are the 2 books that I mentioned in the last video. And I also want to read Going Deeper with God, It's kind of like a workbook that also comes with 33 audio tracks that you listen to as you move through the workbook. And it's all about strengthening your relationship with God. The Bible handbook, and I don't think this was really intended to be read cover to cover because it's more like a reference tool, but it gives you an introduction and an outline to each book of the Bible, and it comes with helpful diagrams, maps, and timelines. I also wanted to read God's Power to Change Your Life. This one is supposed to give practical guidance for applying God's truths to allow for positive change in your life. So, for example, he covers developing patience, being more loving, being productive. Each chapter closes with prompts for actually putting what you learned into action, which I love. There are 4 different devotionals that I want to go through. This one is 180 days. This is 100 days. And then this one is 40 days. And this one is technically for the entire year, but I really wanted to go through these this year. In order to make sure I am completing each of these devotionals, I want to set up a devotional tracker. I'm going to use one of the trackers that comes with the extension pack for this. I'm labeling the columns as number of days, referring to the number of days of devotionals that are included in each of the books, the title and the author, and the date range, which is referring to which months will be dedicated to reading which devotionals. Just to kind of go over how I would use each of these devotionals. So this first one, it has a verse at the top. So I would write down the dates and the verse for that day, and then I would read, and I would write down any thoughts that I have about this, and then write down my prayers for that day. This second devotional is more in depth because each day there is a verse, but then there are also questions that you need to answer. So for this, I would write down the verse, and then in this section I would write down my answers to the questions for that specific day. And I'll also label each page with which day that I'm working on for each devotional. This devotional has scripture reading, and then it also has a question and it has a prayer. So I'll write down my thoughts and my answer to the question here, and then write down my prayer here. If I ever run out of space on these pages, I'm going to be using the lined notes pages. So that's going to be how I incorporate my devotionals. The next page is tithe trackers. There are 52 weeks worth of rows on here, so I'm going to keep track of tithing here, and then the columns say date, description, form of payment, and amount. So I'm going to use this column with a check mark to check it off once the payment has actually been sent. Next, I want to add a podcast tracker. I will occasionally listen to a podcast called Daily Hope when I'm getting ready to go to work in the morning. And I'm going to use this tracker as a location to write down the podcast episodes that I want to listen to next. So in some ways, this is going to be like a wish list. Or if I didn't finish an episode, I can remember to go back to it and actually finish it. That happens sometimes.
They sing hallelujah.
Behind the online sermons tracker, I want to add in a Bible reading tracker. So this is an undated Bible reading tracker. The reason why it's undated is because I like to read through the Bible at my own pace. I don't like to be stressed out about keeping up with a 365-day read through the Bible in a year kind of schedule. So I will write down the number for that chapter in this little box. But if you want to just color it in, you could use a highlighter and color it in, or you could just, check it off for each chapter that you complete. Another way you could use this tracker is to keep track of where you are in an audio Bible that you are listening to. So in 2024, I'm going to be listening to an audio Bible called Inspired by the Bible Experience as I'm driving to work every day. After the Bible reading tracker, I'm going to add a 52-week scripture writing plan. This scripture writing plan starts during the first week of January, and it's broken up into different categories. So like January will be focusing on hope and encouragement. February is love. March is strength and courage. The idea of this is that you're only writing down one verse per week if writing down a verse per day is a little overwhelming for you. I do have, some videos where you can get free monthly scripture writing plans. I'll link those down below if that's something that interests you. The extension pack comes with these sheets with boxes that you can use to write out the verses, or you can just use a lined sheet of paper or a sheet of dot grid. So I'm actually going to be taking the sheets of dot grid that come after the favorite verses section, and I'm going to be adding them here so that I have more pages to write down my verses for my 52-week scripture writing plan. There are 5 sheets of dot grid. I'll add more as I need them, and maybe even add in some line notes sheets later on if that's what I want to decide to do. And then we get to the favorite verses section, and these are specifically my favorite verses just as a collection to keep them so I can look back. Not specifically the ones from the scripture writing plan, but if I want to add that to here, then I can do that as well. I moved the lined pages that come with the Faith Planner to behind the Notes tab because I want to use these pages for taking notes on online sermons, and then I want the 52 weeks of sermon notes to be dedicated to the in-person sermons. Then we get to the sermon notes subsection. Someone came up with a really good idea, which I wanted to mention in this video. She said that she's going to take out the stuff that she would take to church. So I think she said the sermon notes and maybe the Bible study pages, and she's going to put it in a separate notebook and then keep her actual planner at home. So when she goes to church, she can just take a thin little notebook with her and take notes. I'm just going to leave the year at a glance as is, and then I'm going to set up the month of January because I usually only like to plan out 1 month at a time, so I'm not getting overwhelmed. The calendar section tells me what I need to do every day so that I stay on track with my goals for the year. I added a quiet time sticker to every single day, and then I decided that I wanted to write out the verse of the week on Saturdays, so I have a sticker on each Saturday to keep track of that. I also decided that I wanted to read my faith-based books on Sundays, so I've written out how many pages to read.
I can see though my eyes are all closed.
Now I want to add in my top tabs. So there are 4 top tabs. First, I printed out these little labels using my demo letra tag. So the idea of this came from a video by Squared Plans, and I'll link it down below. Definitely go watch that and support her channel. I want to make sure she gets the credit for this idea. It's Squared Plans' idea to use the demo letra tag for dividers, but also it's her idea to use top tab dividers to kind of guide yourself through your planner each day to get to the specific pages that you need to be updated. And that way you aren't just flipping aimlessly through your planner trying to find the page that you need to get to. I think it's such a good idea. I wanted to just kind of show you an example of what a day would look like. So let's say that it's a Monday. So I flip to Daily Bible Study. That's the first tab that I care about. And I can look at my quiet time guide, follow these steps. Then I'll read my devotional and fill out my entire Bible study sheet. Flip to my daily prayer tab. This is going to take me to the prayer section, and I'll pray through each of these pages of strategic prayers and then get to my prayer requests. And then that completes my quiet time. Then after that, I'm going to skip over verse of the week because that takes place on Saturdays. And I'm going to go straight to my daily checklist. And on my daily checklist, I can now check off that I completed my quiet time. Okay, so let's say that it's Saturday. So then I would flip to daily Bible study, read my devotional, go through the steps, fill out my page, go to daily prayers, pray through these pages, pray through the prayer requests, and then it's Saturday, so now I do the verse of the week. Then I check my schedule and it says that the verse of the week is Psalm 55:22. Throw your burden upon the Lord and he will sustain you. He will never allow the godly to be shaken. I'll choose one of these pages to write it down. Then after that is done, that's when I go to my daily checklist and I check off that I completed quiet time and I wrote down my verse of the week. Let's say it's Sunday. So you go to the first tab, go to the second tab, and then it says read pages 1 through 30. So I'll get out my notebook to take notes and I'll read my book. That's how I'm going to make sure that I achieve my goals of what I want to do every day and what I want to do every week. Running out the memory verse, reading. Then it says every month. Plan out the next month on my monthly calendar on the fourth Saturday of the month. So this task is going to be written in my home planner. I'm going to have it scheduled that day. There will be a task that I need to check off that I need to plan out the next month in my faith planner. And then I also will schedule in for each quarter, at the end of the quarter, kind of think about how things are going, what went wrong, what went well. Do I need to start reading more pages if it's not challenging enough, or if I can't keep up with it, do I need to, pull back a little bit? I hope that this video gave you some ideas for setting up your faith planner. If you want to see more ideas on setting up your faith planner, check out this video next, and I'll see you next Saturday. Bye!